G'day guys, how are you going? Well, if you've done a lot of campfire cooking, we all know just how hard it is on your gear. You know, with the extreme heats of campfires and having this gear in there cooking up the meals that you're cooking. Well, today I'm going to tell you how I go about keeping my cast iron fry pan, my cast iron camp oven and my two steel billies in such great condition. And even after 20 plus years of using this gear in the campfire, they still look like new. Let's have a chat about that. Cheese on that hamburger. Magnificent. So if we start in the middle here with my big cast iron camp oven, how do I go about keeping this in such great condition? I mean, you know, look at this, and like I say, these are over 20 years old, all of this stuff that I've used. There's my trivet in the bottom, you know, again, nice and clean. It's cooked endless amounts of roasts and stews and casseroles and all sorts of stuff on that, and have a look at it, it still looks like new. And then for the inside of my camp oven, you know, just get a load of that. I mean, I'm not fussed about the outside. I just make sure the inside is kept nice and clean. So how do I go about doing that to keep it in that sort of condition? Well, after every time I use that, whether I'm cooking up a roast or something like that, at the end of it, I'll let it cool down till it's just cool enough where I can manage to touch it quite comfortably. And then I'll get some paper towel out, and I like to clean as much of the whatever's left in the bottom, you know, all the juices and that whatever you've cooked up. I like to get as much of that out as possible before I add any water into it. So I clean all that up, mop up that with a paper towel, and then I'll get some water, but I do like to add warm water. It depends how cool down the camp oven is. As long as it's cool enough where you can touch it, it's probably generally okay to put cold water in it, but I still like to heat up the water just a little bit. So I'll half fill it up with water, and then I'll just put it back in the fire, put the lid on, put the trivet in as well, put everything in, put it back in the fire, and then just boil it up. Just let it boil away. I'll let it boil away for a good 20 minutes, half an hour or so. Take the lid off, then have a bit of a look inside, see how it's going. And then if it's all looking pretty good, then I'll take it out of the campfire, go and tip it out, have a bit of an inspection and see what it's like. And sometimes, most of the time I get it right within just one boil up, but two, I have occasionally, you know, I'll repeat the process. So again, just put some more water back in it, back in the campfire, and just boil it. Let it boil and boil everything up, and get all those, you know, leftover remnants of food, whatever you've been cooking, get them all loosened up. And then, you know, then tip it out, and then let it cool down. And then once all that's all done, then I put it aside, let it cool down completely. And then before I get the oil out, and then oil it up and put some oil in it just to season it, to stop it rusting. Now this is a rag that I keep in my camp box. I just keep it in there all the time, so it's already soaked in oil, but I'll still add just a little bit after every time I cook it up before I'm going to pack it away for the last time. Look, if I'm camping out for a good few days and I'm going to use it again tomorrow night and the next few nights, I don't go through that whole seasoning process. It's only when I finish camp, where I'm going to go home, might be a few weeks to a few months or whatever before I'm going to go out again, I make sure I oil it up inside, and that way it's not going to rust up, and it's going to keep it looking like that in amazing condition. And there, just using that rag, just a few drops, and then that keeps that camp oven looking like that. And then as far as the cast iron, my big fry pan goes, it's pretty much the same process. And these two items, well, these three items, to this day have never been washed in detergent. I just don't use detergent at all. It's always just boil it up with fresh water, and then yeah, no soap at all. I mean, you hear these things about, you know, when you wash them up in soapy detergent, especially with cast iron, that, you know, the soap remnants can soak into your cast iron, and next time you go and cook up your lamb roast, whatever, well, it might have a bit of a tingy taste of your last detergent when you wash it up last time. So I don't use any detergent, zero. So just fresh water only, boil them up. And same with me fry pan. I'll put it, after I've cooked it up, me bacon and eggs, whatever, cooking, you know, let it cool down just a little bit, put it back on the fire, just boil up some water in it, and then just I generally get my big egg flip there, loosen up any bits that are still stuck with the bottom of it, and just swirl it around until it's all boiled up, then take it off, tip it out, same process as that. Tip it out to one side out there, have an inspection, make sure there's no food remnants or anything stuck in the bottom. Occasionally, yep, might have to repeat the process, but very rarely get it done right the first time. But I'll just fill it up, you know, about halfway up the rim there, and just let it boil away, and it does its job. Now I'll have a chat about my two billies that I've got going on over here. Because again, You know, look at the condition of these, shiny condition of these. This is how they are all the time. I've got 2 of them in here. There's my little one. Again, extremely well used, as you can see. These billies, again, well over 20 years old, all this gear is. My steamer's not quite over 20 years old, only made that a couple of years ago, which that works a treat, you know, for steaming up veggies and things. But again, look at the insides of these. You know, they're all nice, clean, shiny, no food or anything stuck in the bottom of them. And that's just how I do. And I repeat the same process. It's the same with these. All I do is, you know, it depends what I've been cooking up in that. Generally, sometimes I might be just cooking up a pasta or something like that. So there's no messy food generally goes into that one. So yeah, just boil it up and then yeah, just tip it out, have a bit of a look, make sure there's no food stuck, especially right in the rims, in the corners, in the bottoms in there. That's where you got to really make sure that that is cleaned out really, really well. And then once it's all cooled down, then I just get my rag again, drop of oil in there, swirl it around, because especially with these will rust big time. These are steel. So have a look at them. You know, for well over 20 years old, they're not aluminium or stainless steel or something like that. These are just steel. These will rust in 2 seconds flat if you don't look after them. And have a look at the inside of that. They look amazing. And same with my lids, you know. No rust on them at all because I look after them really well with a good oil bath after they've cooled down a bit. And then my big steel one, you know, again, look at the inside of that. It's just absolutely beautiful. Sometimes, you know, if I've once I've let it washed all the water out and let it dry out, sometimes I might stick him back upside down or just stick it near the campfire over there just to make sure it dries out really well before I go putting any oil around the inside of it. Because again, you know, with steel, it'll rust, no worries. So you've got to make sure these, particularly these, the steel ones, make sure they are really dry before I go and oil them up. And right in that rim, right down the bottom down there, right, make sure I get right around inside that rim, make sure that's all cleaned out and all dried out, all nice and proper. And then same with my rag, you know, get the rag into it. Yeah, I'll make sure I get right into that rim right in the bottom in there. And these are never gonna rust. I mean, have a look at it, they're just beautiful. They're so shiny and clean, because that's how I look after my gear. So that's how I keep my cast iron fry pan, my cast iron camp oven and my 2 billies looking so good after 20 plus years. They look amazing. So there you go guys, hopefully it's given you some tips on how to look after your cast iron gear or even your steel billies. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you on the next one. Hooroo.